Hello and welcome to Kino Kingdom 100. I said hello then, like hello, hello. So I'll say hello all. Welcome to Kino Kingdom 119. Sorry. Speaking of hello, hello, I watched. Oh, I watched it was a TV series I actually watched with Faye that I forgot to make in my notes, starring that guy, a person called Guy, who was in Hello, Hello in the 80s. And it was such a weird sort of like I recognize him, but I've only seen him once 30 years ago.
Was it a modern series then?
Yeah, it was a series called. I'm into it at the moment. When I watched that, the Thursday Night Murder Club, it was something with Martin Freeman, and it was an Agatha Christie thing. I watched an episode of Hercule Poirot with David Suchet the other day. I don't know what's happening. I'm just watching these really bizarre, like 80s sort of really gentle TV movie murder mysteries. Who is it? Martin.
Turn you into my parents.
Yeah, honestly, I'll be watching like what's it? Keeping Up Appearances soon.
It's not the guy who. I might be thinking of the French guy in Top Secret instead.
It is Guy Siner, who was. If you look at Guy Siner, Guy Siner. I actually sort of briefly met him in a Comic-Con years ago. I looked at him and thought, are you, like he was wandering around, I thought, do you look like him or are you him? And it was clearly him, but I walked past him at the time. Guy Siner.
Strange picture on Wikipedia of him.
Yeah, I like.
Oh, God. Okay.
You know who it is now, don't you? So
yeah.
I'll talk about it next time because it's dumb. But
You don't think we've got a lot of Allo Allo fans on this podcast?
He was also in the British Empire.
Was he?
And Seinfeld, apparently.
I remember I watched the British Empire. That's weirdly one of my brother's favorite shows. I mean, I like it because part of the title is my name, so that's why I'm drawn to it. Obviously,
naturally.
By the way, if anyone's interested, there's a Comic-Con going on somewhere in Wales where you can get on a steam train with Chris Barry, and he will sort of keep you amused as you travel down to a Comic-Con in Cardiff. It's a bizarre setup. It also means that you'd have to get to the start of the train station, where I think it's up in Brecon or whatever, get on a train to the Comic-Con in Cardiff, then get off, then get back to where you parked your car in Brecon, and then drive home. I don't know. That's going to work for a lot of people, to be honest.
Does Chris Barry travel with you in the car as well, and door-to-door service?
With everyone, yeah. Then everyone gathers in the car park, and he individually drives everyone home. And I think he'd run out of material. I think he would run out of material. He's one of those people that's really big as an after-dinner speaker, and I just wonder what that would be like.
Quite tedious, I'd imagine. And overpriced. Guy Siner was in a sitcom called That's My Bush! ! From the early 2000s, created by Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
What?
Short running. Yeah, it ran for one season, and it was a satire on George Bush in the White House and his wife. And I think it seems to be some sort of satire of American sitcoms in general. I might have to check this out. This sounds quite interesting.
Yeah, that does actually. Well, hey, look at us! And by the way, all the listeners, I know we've had another huge spike in listeners, mainly bizarrely from the US and Vietnam, where I assume the Vietnamese must be listening was thinking, "What the fuck are they talking? Who's Godfrey Ho?"
Except for this episode where we're talking about really universal things like hello, hello, and that's my bush.
There was an Amiga game of hello, hello, and
Jesus Christ,
this is a question for Rupert, right? You have one guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
So don't say what I know you're going to say. It is it's hello, hello. It's on the Amiga.
Right.
What kind of genre of game do you think it is?
I hope it's a first-person shooter.
Side-scrolling platformer I'm going for because everything was a side-scrolling
platformer. Bit of good news, guys. We've obviously in the past we've been contacted by Nicole Kidman, Tony Howe's. This is Tony Howe's favorite podcast, and obviously Tia Correa does our intro. But we've actually had a little bit of a message from Liam Neeson. So this is a little message he said.
there, boys. Hi, it's Liam Neeson here. Big fan of the podcast. Like that, Lazlo. Like that, Britt. Oh, I think that Rupert's a bit of a prick, though. Oh, tell you what, I like it when you in the Kino Kingdom podcast there. You watch. I like it when you watch all the shit films there. Oh, I really like it when you talk about the Godfrey Ho films there, mate. Oh, they're classics. Oh, I'll tell you, I've got shit off now. But why don't you watch Jim Carter there? Oh, what a classic film there with Kurt Thomas. Whoa. Oh, what's that, Pam? Oh, I've got to go. Pam Anderson wants to suck me off now.
And he's a busy man, obviously. Hopefully, not making Ice Road 3 or whatever it is. No, that was really cool. Do you know, when you watch interviews with Liam Neeson, his voice is a lot lower.
That's his stage voice.
I think it's like it's almost like John Bernthal when he plays the Punisher. Like his speaking voice is quite high, but his Punisher voice is quite gravelly and low. And I think Liam Neeson must just really cover it up because that sounded almost like a comedy, lazy leprechaun voice with sort of a sing-songy sort of twee routine in between each sentence. It's bizarre.
I realise I've never heard him laugh before, but it's good to hear that side of him.
Well, you probably would have heard him laugh if you were standing next to him when the check for Ice Road went through his letterbox, when he thought about what he did compared to what he earned. That was the scene where... what's his name? Lawrence Fishburne plays someone called Axel Goldenrod, classic name for Canadians. And when he dies in that film, spoiler alert, you can see him smiling and he's almost looking off screen and miming signing a check because I think I am in that film for about as long as he is. It's astonishing. We've got a bit of a sort of bit of a preamble and a bit of context to today. Rupert's got a screen and we've got a cover that we've kindly been sent, and I've got something I want to talk about, and Lazlo's got his usual 400 films. But we actually have just come back from a weekend away where we watched 6 absolute classics, as far as I'm concerned, that were curated carefully. So I said we'd do the screener first, then we'll do the thing I want to talk about, and then it's going to be 6 movies that I'll
beg a belief.
That our usual listeners will think, here we go. This is what we're all about. So yeah, Rupert, do you want to take center stage and the spotlight's on you? So don't mess up that top C.
Sure thing. I'm going to talk about Slither, which was provided to us. This is James Gunn's directorial debut from 2006. It's 20th anniversary, so it's been released in 4K. It's a low-budget horror movie, fairly low budget, 50 million, horror movie about a small town in South Carolina, which is invaded by a mutant alien parasite creature thing. Elizabeth Banks is married to Michael Rooker. Yes, you heard that right. He is infected by the alien and he starts to mutate and he possesses a bunch of people around the town, but he really wants her. But thank goodness for the local sheriff, played by Nathan Fillion, who's there to kind of protect her. I don't really get Nathan Fillion. He seems like a nice man. He doesn't seem to have much going on screen. To say, I'm not really getting that, but I guess he's popular. He's still hanging around, isn't he?
He was good in Firefly. If you ever watched that.
I heard he was. Maybe it's because I've never seen that. I've never got it. Anyway, so this is basically a rehash of Night of the Creeps, from 1985. But it seems to be going for like a Tremors type small town vibe. But it's not as funny or charming as Tremors. It's very much like the familiar James Gunn sense of humour, like a slightly edgier Joss Whedon, a constant sense of irreverence, and every scene needs a punchline. So, it doesn't. A lot of this film doesn't actually make that much sense either. So Michael Rooker's character, his name's Grant. I think he goes missing. After he mutates. So the cops vaguely track his movements across the countryside, and somehow assume he's going to be at a certain farm at a certain time. So the cops just go and sit in a field all night waiting for him to show up. And for some reason, they also think that taking his traumatized, victimized wife on the stakeout would be a good idea. And then, well, they sat there and they find him and they watch this extraterrestrial mutant literally kill a cow in front of them. They just let her approach the alien on her own, just walking towards him, and he's got like tentacles and shit. It's like, what is happening? But, it's kind of a irreverent comedy, isn't it? So logic doesn't matter, does it? Anyway, yeah. So it's just a bit silly. I wasn't too keen on the rapey nature of the creature. And you combine it with the silly tone, and it feels like quite a jarring juxtaposition. It's very slimy and it's very kind of invasive when he's like thrusting up against people to like infect them. So it just makes it a bit more uncomfortable, more than fun or scary. And also the rules of the creature aren't completely clear for a long time. Like, it's controlling Michael Rooker, but he's not brain dead. So it's not quite clear where the kind of possession begins and ends. And actually, they kind of introduce there's a really shoddy moment later on where they introduce this kind of sequence where a woman is attacked by the creature but not actually killed. But she gets like a vision of, like, I don't know, the alien's memory or something, and she briefly sees like this backstory of the alien planet or something like that. And then she's able to explain why it's doing what it's doing. And that whole subplot, it just felt like all of that was just a reshoot requested by a producer, to be honest. It felt really surplus to requirements. So yeah, I don't think this is a very good film. And I don't think it probably wouldn't really have any kind of following if it weren't for James Gunn's future success, I guess. I mean, Night of the Creeps wasn't exactly peak cinema, but it did have Tom Atkins, so it's instantly better.
I remember them like selling this on the kind of sexy, creepy side of it, didn't they? Like, the poster was like you could see a woman in a bath, and then like slug things are crawling into it, and you're just like, okay.
That was the same as the original cover as well in the 90s, I remember. I remember that in the video store.
Kind of eye-catching, I guess, if you're into creepy alien sex things.
It's a recurring theme on this podcast, and I guess in cinema, that when it's like a film can be good, bad, or average, and then all of a sudden it's a bit rapey. That level always puts me off, because unless the film is about the topic or approaching it in some way, it instantly makes me think, you've got no taste. You're just doing stuff, and it makes me just not trust the film. And it's sort of just
I'm not sure why it is that I'm quite happy to watch like the most hideous violence on screen, but when it comes to like rapey stuff, it just seems a bit uncomfortable. It's like when we talked about Terrifier before, and how the guy who plays Art the Clown was like asked about how he felt about, doing these things on screen, and it's like he had no problem with it, but where he draw the line as if it turns sexual. I thought that was interesting, but considering this plan is tearing people literally limb from limb in the most graphic way possible, and yet it's just like a no-go. But I kind of understand that, because the kind of best horrors have the greatest longevity when they're not like that. They're not rapey. When it's just like a laugh, having, I don't know, something you can watch with your friends and not feel like you're just watching some weird kinky porn.
I think, this kind of ties into something, a tiny part of Video Heaven, which I'm going to talk about later. Where there's the part of you that enjoys horror is the part of you that enjoys like this preposterous ridiculousness, and it's like, throw whatever you want at the screen. This is beyond that. This happens very rarely. But then sexual violence is unfortunately relatively common, and it brings it into the
Yeah,
real
maybe
world,
that's it.
and you're like,
Yeah.
I don't like. You may know someone who's like been sexually attacked or been in an abusive relationship, but most people don't know someone who has been torn apart by a werewolf.
Torn apart by a clown.
So so you're like, well, torn apart by Gary Busey and Silver Bullet. So you just think, well, it's almost like, oh, actually, this is bringing it in the real world now, and it's a different kind of titillation. So I think that it always makes me think, I'm not really signed up for this.
It's a different forbidden box.
Yeah, I think. James Gunn made this when he was coming out of his. It was like
Trauma
a transitional thing from trauma sort of shock, press every button possible movies, and this is like a more mainstream thing. Maybe slightly still transitioning away from that, trying to make you, turn it off.
We're going to talk about trauma as well. Actually, next.
Anyway, Slither's not very good. There's the bottom line. So what is Video Heaven? Do tell.
Well, Video Heaven, Rupert, this I can't remember where I watched this, because I watched this, I think, on like the 3rd of April, so you're going back nearly 3 weeks now. I looked at it, I watched it somewhere, somehow, and it is basically a 3-hour documentary by Alex Ross Perry, narrated by Maya Hawke, on the impact the video store and video rentals had around the world, mainly in America. Alex Ross Perry, by the way, is a little aside, did Listen Up Philip, which is one of my favorite sort of indie films with Jonathan Pryce. And yes, I would lay down in bed for him and close my eyes and let him use my body like a toilet. Jason Schwartzman. So I really enjoyed that film because it's so nihilistic. But with Video Heaven, it's ostensibly a sort of study of VHS rental stores, DVD rental stores, and their impact on cinema and in pop culture. But I'm looking at this now, and it says reception 85% of 34 critics are positive, and they are wrong, because what this documentary actually is just a really sort of self-serving, romanticized version of what video stores were, which is effectively just a now outmoded medium of delivering a service, which is was increasingly impractical and just served the time in the 80s and 90s. And Alex Ross Perry,
like someone who worked in a video store.
Yeah, and it's one of the best times of my life because it was kind of pre-responsibility for anything. And I love it. I mean, the amount of times I used to go in the back room, shut the shop, and have a watch of some videos. It's like they're the greatest times of my life. But
the thing is, if you dislike this nostalgia, because you have actual nostalgia for working in a video store, and yet you still dismiss this documentary, that's brilliant.
Dismiss is a tough word. I got a lot from it, but I was just thinking,
okay,
I watched this over 2 nights. It's 3 hours long. And we were watching it, and Faye turned around to me and said, "They're just saying the same things over and over again." And I said, "Yes." I said, "You should host the podcast, babe, because you've hit the nail on the head." So it starts off with, oddly, I mean, I don't know if he was a producer or not. I'm guessing so. Ethan Hawke, who happens to be the narrator's father, doing sort of, I think it's a Hamlet monologue in some 90s mumblecore film throughout a video store. And Maya Hawke narrates a lot of it. And basically, she sums up in 10 minutes what the rest of the documentary then just trudges through treacle, which is video stores were really cool. You could go there, and it was the first time that you didn't have to go to the cinema. You could take stuff home and watch it with the family and, choose films and read the backs and have a lot of choice. And you get excited, wait for new films to come out and stuff. And it was cheap and cheerful. And then they were replaced by DVDs, which was eventually replaced by streaming. And now they're gone. And I thought, oh, well, that was the first 10 minutes. So where's this going to go from here? Oh, you're going to say all of that again extremely slowly and repetitively. Good. Obviously, I sat through it because I'm not stupid. It starts off, it's very US centric, because I thought, well, you're obviously going to have to cover the, universally, and how I was really intrigued how the impact they had in different countries or different cultures. No, it doesn't go into any of that. Not even like the UK, which is obviously a huge market for it as well. Maya Hawke's got a really great voice. She's got kind of like a husky sort of, to me, it's like a standard American voice. It's not too grating. And Alex Ross Perry clearly has a lot of passion for this, but almost too much, because it kind of feels like a university essay put to cinema, put to film. And they go on and they're making all these claims. And the main things I took away from this is that they say things like, and it's almost like he's running. And I'm not saying this. If you're listening, Mr. Parry, I'm not saying this, but it feels like this. It feels like it was run through AI, because you know how AI will make claims that are not true, and then when you correct it, it says, "Oh, you're right." Yeah, it's kind of, there's no in between. Yeah. There was one scene where they're talking about the staff. Bearing in mind, right, you're talking about millions of people worldwide, right, from different classes and different ages, millions of people worldwide. It brazenly, bold as brass, Maya Hawke says, everyone who worked in video stores was on the periphery of the film industry, and they kind of were experts in movies and saw it as their way in. And I thought, did they though? Because I worked there.
Sorry to be the black swan.
Yeah, I worked there and I didn't. So that instantly just proves that comment, doesn't it? And then I thought back to all the members of staff I worked with, who were all middle-aged women who were just working there as a job. And I thought, and I realized this documentary just constantly makes these unsubstantiated claims with no evidence, no statistics. It just rolls on through. There's a scene where they say, the video store in movies is whenever it's used in movies, and it's using all these, like, the best part of it was basically when it's showing all these films that we've either covered or I've forgotten or I remember. Like, there was a couple of Larry Fessenden movies in there and some 80s stuff in 90s and 2000s, and it shows it as it ebbs away, and it was really interesting. And they talk the big hit with Mark Wahlberg was in there, which I'm especially proud of. And I thought, oh yeah, I see how they're all used and whatever. But then again, Maya Hawke brazenly just rolling on says, every time a scene in a video store in movies is used, it's always a scene where people meet, argue, or it's a key scene that moves the plot forward. And I thought, well, like any scene in any film anywhere, because otherwise it wouldn't be a scene in the film, would it? Because nothing would be happening, would it? Remember? And when you kind of realize, you kind of click to, like, they're just saying stuff, you can't get it out of your head.
Also, remember in Fight Club, this has just immediately sprung to mind as a counterpoint. There's that scene where they go through a video store and they're like using magnets to wipe all the videotapes. And it's a fun scene. It doesn't move the story forward at all. It's in a video store. No one's meeting. So immediately off the bat, wrong.
Boom.
Yeah.
Done.
And every other scene we could probably bring up, it's like, well, it's just, they're not, it's not like a scene in it's a scene anywhere, a laundrette, a church. It's like, the reason any scene is in any film is because it's there to, like, perform a function, if you will. So it doesn't make video stores special. It's not like, because video stores don't exist anymore, they can't make those scenes anymore. They could replace it with someone watching Netflix with a POV shot. You know, it doesn't make any difference. And there was a whole...
and it's not even synonymous with the things she's describing anyway, because, you know, there are other things, places you think of where people meet in movies, like a barber shop or something, or a cafe, or like any place where people meet. It's not specifically, it's not synonymous with that. So yeah, it's just wrong.
Yeah. And the whole film as well is split into, surprisingly, considering it's 3 hours long, pardon me, it's split into surprisingly few chapters. So you've got, like, you know, the staff of the store, like, you know, Blockbuster they talk about, and some adverts. And they're the best parts because they're truly nostalgic. You know, you remember watching those in, like, Scotch videotapes with the and on and all that sort of stuff with the skeleton. So this is kind of cool. But then they say, but it's like adult films. And then she'll spend 25 minutes talking about, you know, showing scenes involving pornography in films, or like sort of, you know, comedy pornos and stuff. And then Maya Hawke, sorry, is when I say she. She'll say, well, you know, porn, everyone enjoyed it, but it was always hidden away in its own area or curtained off in a room for adults only. And I thought, well, like all porn then. Again, not specific. The whole thing is so romanticized that it's actually really tedious. It's like everything they say is a revelation. You think that's just how things work. Things move on. Porn is always personal. It's never a public thing. I was just fooled by the whole approach of the documentary.
By law as well. Do they mention at any point the impracticality of renting videos and the terrible picture quality?
No,
or is that
or the fact that on Shannon Tweed in A Woman Scorned always goes fuzzy at the best parts when you're having a watch of it. No, they never mention any of that. None of it at all. It's completely romanticized. And this is a point I wanted to bring up to Lazlo because he's the only one of us who kind of works in the industry. It's repeated that, and I guess it's just because of the time, the trauma films. For example, I think, I'm thinking back, it is Last Action Hero with Arnie, where he goes in and Sylvester Stallone replaces him in Terminator 2, and they're in like a really ridiculous sort of film store. Don't know if you remember that scene?
Yeah.
Showing him the sort of cardboard cutout of it. And Arnie's like, oh, Sly killed it in that role, blah, blah. And apparently at the start of that scene, when they're walking into the store, it's basically a set, I guess, what you would call a setup shot. I don't know what the terminology is. So it's when the scene starts.
Establishing
shot. Thank you. Again, new listeners, I'm the layman here, believe it or not. The establishing shot. There's like in the classic section, they're all trauma films. And then they focus on that, and they go to some weird 80s slashes where trauma films are always in the classic section. And I thought, surely that could just be someone in the props department or the art department having a bit of fun. It doesn't mean anything, but yet it's like a 10-minute focus of the documentary.
What is their suggestion?
Scene? They talk about.
That sounds like a joke, right?
Yeah. That sounds like the art department having a laugh. The director probably doesn't clock it or care or know.
But it's a focus in this 3-hour documentary for like 10, 15 minutes where they, it was people really knew what was timeless and what was these sort of underdogs and what the sort of cult. And I thought, no, that's probably just a joke in a few films randomly.
Yeah, I think I'd venture that Stroma is anything but timeless, to be honest.
So
exceedingly dated, in fact.
So I don't.
They're probably one step away of putting like the trauma films in the children's section, and somebody went, "You might be pushing it there. So let's call them classics instead."
So yeah, I don't want to push this. I know we've got a lot to get through this episode, but yeah, it was like you said, Rupert. I one of my best times of my life was that period of like in my teens working in the video store, and it was brilliant. This just hammers the same point home over and over and over again in a completely overly romanticized way that, like, if watched in 20, 30 years by like our children, I would just be pointing the screen and saying, no, none of this is right. But how many documentaries are going to be made about video stores? It's actually sort of untruthful as well.
This is probably aiming itself at the like faux nostalgia Stranger Things fans, isn't it? People who have never even stepped in a video store, and so they get to watch this and go, oh, wow, that must have been what they were like. Just as I always imagined since I started watching Stranger Things.
Yeah, there's something about
it. Right.
Do you know what? Faye and I both said that when we were watching this, I said, I can still smell the two distinct scents of the video stores I worked in. And I love that. And like I said, I absolutely love it. But if I can watch this and think, no, it's just, I don't know why it was so celebrated. I'd like to speak to those critics and say, what did you watch then? Was it a different cut? Was it a cut that was an hour and a half shorter, perhaps? So yeah, not ideal.
No.
That's a shame. Shall I talk about a film that I watched before we get into the weekend of wonder?
Go on, you bugger.
So I watched this ages ago, so I'm going to strain to remember this now. Called So Torn, and that is so SEW, like sewing.
Okay.
Quirky film came out a few years ago, which I watched on Now TV.
Now that word's a bit dangerous, isn't it?
Yes. Well, quirky this film is. So it's set in rural Switzerland, and Eve Connolly plays a downtrodden seamstress who inherits her mother's sewing shop. And while she's very good at sewing, she's in a bit of an emotional rut. So it's not working out, and she's on the edge of the shop closing down. And then as she's driving on an errand for some rich woman who's getting a wedding dress made, she happens across a drug deal gone wrong in the middle of nowhere on this country lane. And there's two guys, both of whom have been injured, and there are guns on the floor, and there's a pile of money. And she goes to drive past it all and then has a think about what she could do to get away with this money and set up the perfect crime. And what she launches into then is an elaborate sequence of tying string, because she uses her sewing skills to put string around this place so it ties to the guns. And then as she drives off, the guns are pulled on these strings like little miniature pulleys and things. So the guns end up in the guy's hands so they can shoot each other. And then she can take the money. What then comes out of it is it sort of splits into a multi-thread story where you see different versions of if she'd done it differently, how it would have panned out. And in each version, she ends up in an equally kind of perilous scenario where she has to use her sewing skills again to get out of it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it's a clever, offbeat kind of concept that unfortunately goes from making very little sense to making zero sense very, very quickly. So it's got some really, really kind of magnificent widescreen shots of the sort of Swiss countryside, but then it's got a really choppy editing style that uses a lot of close-ups. So for the sequences where she's setting up these little things, it works well, but then it carries on in almost every scene when they're inside, tight close-ups and really rapid cuts to the point it gets really irritating to watch and kind of exhausting. And also because each scenario is a sort of an imagining of what she could do, there aren't really any stakes for when it goes wrong because it just kind of resets and plays a different version of events.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, there's no real stakes. And the concept, despite it being quite short, wears itself thin pretty quickly. So unfortunately, I was kind of glad it was over by the time it got to the end, which was a shame. And I got my other half very excited about this because she loves crochet and sewing and stuff, and she tuned out after about half an hour.
Oh. It seems to be based on a short film by the same guys.
I can imagine this would be a brilliant short film.
Yeah, when 6 minutes stretched out to like 90 is...
Well, guys, again, I'm the outsider here. I am the layman. But has that ever happened before where someone's released like Guillermo del Toro Mama short film, and then they make it like a long form film, and it doesn't stretch out because it's not meant to? Has that ever happened before?
Yeah, I think it has happened before. I'm looking at you, Lights Out.
I'm looking at you, Guillermo del Toro Mama. I'm looking at you, everything I've ever seen that's short films.
Phone booth.
Oh, shit.
I wonder if there are examples where it actually has really worked.
And if the audience listening know of them, short films turned into long form movies that actually worked, you can email us at kinokingdom@protonmail.com. Was there anyone in this film, Lazlo, that looked like, I'm just spitballing here, Eric Cantona?
Yes, there was. I can't remember his name. He's like one of those guys who turns up in everything.
It's John Lynch. I know him from
right.
I watched that. I think it was about 5 or 6 episodes ago now. That Irish vampire film that was really good, with Dracula was like sucking blood out of people's bodies towards him, which was really foul. It was wonderfully foul, actually. But he
does look like Eric Cantona.
I'm not a football fan, and I know that. Well, she pulls his trousers down, though. I don't know if he quite looks the same. So we'll have to check that out in a future film. Maybe he gets his tip out. We'll have to have a look. So this isn't. I mean, when your other half watched this and she thought, I'm zoned out on Soton after half an hour, and I've seen Phantom Thread. How many of this sort of crochet-based movies are there? You're like, does she reach over to a VHS selection and say, but don't worry, Lazlo, because I'll pull these out now.
Yeah, there aren't many of these sewing films. I tell you what, we watched The Martian. She also likes gardening, and she got, there's the bit where he's growing potatoes on Mars in like a tent to survive.
In shit.
There. Yeah.
That
And
tent
she
would have
I
stunk.
remember in the cinema, she sort of leaned over and whispered, like, it's like an allotment movie in space. She was very excited about that bit.
I think that's what Mo described it as
It's
well.
like the dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
You
They
never
didn't
know.
show
Oh,
it-
but
they
I will say one last thing before we move on to this. I watched this on Now TV, and this has happened to me a few times now, where the screen goes black and the sound carries on, and you have to like press a button to reactivate it. I don't know if you guys have had this, but it happened just at a moment where she was being strangled, and I assumed that meant she was dead. And I sat there for almost 30 seconds, probably more, until I realized that this is the first time I think it happened. And I was like, this isn't meant to be black, is it? Like, I can hit this, like, this it's moved on to the next scene. And lo and behold, it wasn't. Thanks, Now TV.
Rakuten, the worst streaming service, has a rival. Yeah. Do you know, I haven't been struck down by any like bad streaming stuff for a while, apart from adverts. The Amazon adverts right up there with my favorites because they're the same all the time, and they try to make me buy products that are more expensive in the advert than they are on Amazon on my account. Love it, absolutely love it. So, guys, we're going to dive now into the sixth film we watched. We were away in our. This is probably
Do you
going
want to talk about the Mario Galaxy movie before?
Oh, go on.
Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Go on, you are absolutely right. I'll let you take the lead on this, babe.
Were you asked by Nintendo to review this one, Rupert?
I wish. They wish too, because it's really good. It is a sequel to the most successful video game movie ever made. And this one is about Bowser Jr. kidnapping Rosalina, who's mother to the Lumas from the Galaxy games. And Bowser Jr. has created a casino planet with which he intends to impress his father. Bowser Senior is, of course, still shrunken and in the captivity of Mario and Luigi. And the brothers, along with Peach and Toad, need to travel the galaxy to rescue Rosalina. Along the way, Bowser briefly becomes a tentative ally. Fox McCloud becomes very much an ally. And Yoshi becomes a pet. So basically, if any of that makes sense to you, you'll probably like the movie. If it means nothing, you probably won't. That's basically it. I don't know about you, Britt, but I thought it was better than the first one by quite a significant margin.
I
actually.
thought it was very clearly better than the first one because
Yeah, I think so.
the first movie was not bogged down. It's just the nature. I mean, you're looking at Mario, something with like a 45-year history. It has to spend time setting up the world, and you know it can't throw in too much. And it was a decent film, but I'm not like a Nintendo suck off fanboy like you. And when I watched the first one, I thought it's fine, but it felt kind of generic. And even when I watched it with my son, who liked it, but we've never watched it again, which is kind of telltale. And I thought enjoyed that, and I watched it again with him at one point, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. When I watched Galaxy, it just felt much more brought to life. It felt much more tight. And I don't like the Mario Galaxy game, much as I don't like Mario Sunshine, because when I press up, I want someone to look up. But with this, even though I hate movies, I hate this strong. I dislike movies in space, apart from Event Horizon and that one I always forget the title of with
Starship Troopers.
Yeah, no, that's not really in space. That's on a different planet. What's the one with Dennis Quaid and that amazing man Ben Foster?
Pandorum.
Yes. Apart from those,
Okay.
I just think that this is going to be like airy fairy, but it's like there are so many lovely sequences where you get the kick-ass princess at the start, and you get Bowser when he's like trying to befriend Mario when he's tiny. It's constant comedy that's genuinely funny. Like you don't know. I was thinking there was a point where I thought I'm watching a kids film and I don't know if he's good or bad. I don't know. Like, what?
Yeah, it was genuinely weirdly sophisticated.
He's flip-flopping so hard. The scene where he's on like a bee field and he's like talking about them really fondly. But yeah, I just thought this was really endearing and really genuinely funny and much, much better than the first film, which I enjoyed a lot anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I have watched the first film a lot because my son, but so I've really noticed his flaws a lot more now. But I think one of the main reasons it's better than the first one is because there's no Donkey Kong, who was just quite tedious in the first film. Also, there are far fewer on-the-nose 80s needle drops, which was good respite. I think the script in this one is far less mean-spirited and more charming. It's more of a sense of adventure. You got Yoshi, who's quite adorable. Fox McCloud brings some old-school swagger. And there's some genuinely amusing moments. Like, I love the bit where Mario and Fox McCloud first meet.
I was going to say that exact thing, yeah.
It's such a brilliant moment. They stare at each other and like the music goes all tense, like they're going to have this huge macho rivalry. But then they just compliment each other and just get on with it.
And they're really good friends, really supportive of each other.
Yeah, but I think that moment kind of goes to the heart of why the sequel feels better than the first one, because the first film was basically a triangle of rivalries. You had Bowser, and Mario and the Mushroom Kingdom, and then the Kong folk. And in the first one, Bowser was really vicious in the first film, and the rivalry between Mario and Donkey Kong was weirdly ill-tempered and almost bullying in tone. And this one just feels much more about having fun. And yeah, I mean, for the uninitiated, it's probably quite baffling. But it is pure fan service strung together with the thinnest of plots. But I guess that's why it's virtually immune to critics, I guess.
Yeah, I was...
The critics were not that kind to this, were they?
No, they hated it even more than the first one.
Really?
And it didn't make a jot of difference.
Please tell me this sold billions.
I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it's going to do it's probably close to $1 billion now. Let's have a look.
Yeah, I just think if we're going to... Go on, sorry.
It's hovering at the top of the US charts for weeks.
Yeah. It's 762 million, so it's done all right.
I just think that if we're going to have video game movies, then they may as well at least be as charming as fun as this. I mean, this the thing. It's not irksome. It's not dangerous, and it's not sort of weirdly unwarranted. It's Mario, and it's Mario transitioning from games to movies in the best possible way, really, because it's silly fun. And it's accessible to all. So, I mean, I'm sure people are kicking off that it doesn't. How can you kick off about it? It's funny and amusing. And
you'd be surprised. They don't like the overpowered women in there. That seems to be the biggest.
Hang on, is there a certain... If I was in Fox McCloud's aircraft, would there be a certain wing that would be dipped were I to turn by any chance? The right wing, mate.
Banking to the right.
I don't want to cause any trouble because this isn't a political podcast, but I like the fact there was no Chinese or black people in there. I was like, I was clapping and jumping in the cinema. It's but yeah, it's just ridiculous. But then a woman asked me to sit down, so I told her to fuck off. Obviously,
it seems particularly ridiculous when it comes to criticizing like Rosalina, who clearly in the games is superpowered, and like. And she is a character who doesn't even have to walk. She just floats everywhere, for God's sake. She's got powers. Deal with it. And she does get captured, to be fair, so it's not... She's still a damsel in distress.
It's amazing that even in a children's film, people can find something to whinge about. Good. I'm glad. The important thing is that there's nowhere else that these people's... sort of the veracity of their hatred could be directed in more constructive more constructive way. So that's the most important thing here. Yeah, they're complaining about a Mario film that they probably downloaded illegally, so that's fine. Yeah.
Do you think have they left enough stuff for like a third and fourth and fifth? I felt like with the first one they crammed more into it than they needed to, and in this one obviously they're doing the galaxy thing, and then I didn't know that Star Fox was in it, and you're like, okay, that's a whole other thing.
Sorry, yeah. Well, it's not that big a deal, but yeah, I mean there's still plenty of stuff out there. I mean, what's quite fun is you do get some quite deep cut type characters popping up, especially in the backgrounds and stuff. And I can't really give that away because that's a bit of a spoiler. But there's some really, really kind of deep cuts from. But I suppose Nintendo's got such a kind of rich history, and also they don't really give a shit about mixing kind of franchises and stuff. The fact that Fox McCloud's in this, I mean, for example, we haven't seen like Kirby.
Oh
yet.
yeah, of course.
I mean, that can happen.
And Zelda, I guess they can do because.
Well, I wonder about that. I mean, they're doing the live action Zelda, so I don't know whether
probably keeping that quite separate. Yeah,
you have live action Batman and cartoon Batman.
That's true, and what they could do is have it quite distinct by having like the Wind Waker Link or something like that. So it's actually cartoony.
I think there's a lot of sort of room for side quests in the Mario stuff. I think Jack Black. There was a period of Jack Black where he just pissed me off, but he's kind of come out the other side where he just kind of amuses me now.
He is so good as Bowser.
Yeah,
I know what you mean when you're describing how he's trying to like toe the line between like he's trying to like basically suppress his sheer like fire breathing rage and trying to like charm Mario and Luigi, but he keeps losing his temper. It's just brilliant.
Does he get a good song in this one?
No, that's one disappointment. He doesn't really get a song.
That's a shame.
Yeah,
that's probably my favourite bit of the first one.
Yeah, Peaches. I've heard that in the car a few times. Let me tell you. But yeah, I just think this is clearly better than the first one. It's disappointing to hear that it didn't, wasn't received critically as well. But then, I mean, when you think of the words, the Mario movie wasn't received well critically, it seems a bit of a juxtaposition in and of itself. It's not supposed to be. It's a Mario movie. It's fine. Because believe it or not, guys, Mortal Kombat, Annihilation wasn't in 1987 was received critically well, and that's a load of fucking shit.
I am looking forward to the new Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, only off the back of the new trailer for Street Fighter, because the first one looked crap, but the new trailer looks fun.
I don't think I've seen the new trailer. I'll have to check that out, because the first one was, yes.
Yeah. It looks a bit cheap still, but the trailer is exuberant. It seems like fun.
The new Mario film, by the way, the music was done by Brian Tyler. They say it's the first time in 42 years that he hasn't pissed me off. I should send him a text message and say, "Oh, high five, mate! You finally done it."
I will say, actually, Brian Tyler, he always did the music for both the films, and the way he kind of weaves in the different themes and stuff to make them recognizable, but also obviously using full orchestra and stuff. It's pretty skillful. Gotta say.
I ask you to watch any film that Brian Tyler did the music for between 1997 and 2004 and to tell me the same thing. Because that is not true.
Didn't he do Avengers, or was that Silvestri?
Silvestri.
Did he do any of the Marvel?
Any of his indie films. Listen to his indie films. Okay. It is dread. Oh, it's like he just moves with it. So many of his films are like really choppy new metal guitar. He just flies by. Maybe orchestral is good with, but anything outside of that genre up until like 2005, oh my god, his music. It's just so loud
Iron
in the
Man
mix.
3. Marvel.
The best Iron Man, the most celebrated one. I remember. So
he's no Bear McCreary.
Are we going to finally do it, guys?
Yeah,
we're going into the weekend movies. So yeah, to put in perspective, I'm just going to top this glass of wine up. We went away for a deeply romantic weekend in which no one burped, drank, or farted or smoked. So we just sat there and ate salads and we just laughed, didn't we? And like, I remember
braided each other's hair.
I remember, like you were braiding my hair, and I was kicking my feet on the bed and like twirling the telephone line. I was on the phone to someone called Josh at the time, I believe. So yeah, there was all that going on. It wasn't definitely 7 men sitting silently farting in a room, looking at the TV with no soundbar, as Lone Wolf McQuade burned out. So, which film are we going to talk about first from our weekend?
Well, we could start with Lone Wolf McQuade. Because I think we did start with Lone Wolf McQuade, actually.
I thought we watched Black Dog first.
All right.
Should we start with Black Dog? I've got them in order, I think.
All right. Okay.
Black Dog, Deadly Prey, Lone Wolf McQuade, Hard Ticket to Hawaii, Recoil, and then One Tough Bastard.
Shit. I mean...
And there was another couple watched in between. Britt, you watched... I fell asleep multiple times during Iron City or whatever the fuck that was.
Steel Frontier?
Steel Frontier.
Okay, so we could start with Black Dog. I mean, it's not like my notes are in any way coherent anyway, because literally my first line of my notes is a quote from Black Dog where someone says that Patrick Swayze, who stars in it, can drive an ice truck through hell on the 4th of July, which was meaningless. So Swayze plays Jack Cruz, I believe. He's on parole with a permanent driving ban. He also needs money for his family, so he takes a job transporting illicit goods between states. The Black Dog refers to a nightmare he has where a dog runs at his truck and runs him off the road. So he is, anyway, to this illicit goods transportation thing, he's sent by Meatloaf, who's seems to be attempting to steal his own shipment or something. It's needlessly
convoluted. We really got confused about that plot point. Yeah.
And then you got a kind of concurrent plot with Charles S. Dutton and Stephen Tobolowsky as these two detectives tracking the truck and drip feeding us Patrick Swayze's backstory, and it keeps cutting back to them boringly, and they try to spice up their scenes by having them constantly shout at each other, but it just makes them look unprofessional, to be honest, rather than being dramatic. Oh yeah, Patrick Swayze's wife and daughter are kidnapped and held hostage by the guys who employed Swayze. So, yeah, for a film about getting A to B in a big truck with car chases, it's a bit overplotted, really, isn't it? And some observations about this movie. Swayze has a weirdly casual, almost prideful reaction to killing the people trying to drive them off the road. He seems strangely unperturbed. Like, he went to prison for 2 years for accidentally killing a woman and a child. So, yeah, he's traumatized by that.
Yeah, haunted by nightmares since, but doesn't...
Haunted by the idea of killing someone, and yet he's fine with this. Plus, it's not like he had enough time in prison to actually turn him into a psycho, so why is he acting like one? So truck action, I think, was pretty good, but there's not enough of it due to the amount of plot and the quantity of characters, and the final sequence is an average shootout followed by a lame fight sequence. And the actual very ending is ridiculous. Swayze is just massively over-rewarded. He gets like a new home, a new car, all possible charges dropped. And the moment he drives away, he ends up murdering someone else in front of his already traumatized family. And I bet that wasn't going to be investigated either. So, ridiculous ending. Cracking movie.
It would have been awesome if there'd been, like, after he just killed off that last guy, and then the police just shout out, "Don't worry, you're good for that one as well."
Yeah, that's fine. We just add that one on. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and why are they forgiving him? He was engaged in a crime in the first place. He's like illegally transporting guns. He should be back in prison, along with the multiple homicides.
Yeah, there should at least be some sort of investigation. Yeah, so it wasn't the best Black Dog. I think because some of the action sequences were quite good when it got round to them, but there's too much
There was like the odd
character.
bit, like there's that
stuff.
cool bit where there's like a helicopter shot. The lorry's hurtling along the highway, and a helicopter shot zooms in, and you can see it's actually Patrick Swayze like climbing out of the truck.
Yeah, that
and
was rad.
Shumbling along the edge of it and stuff. And you think, oh, cool. Good stunts in places.
Yeah. But not really a hidden gem, I wouldn't say. What was... Do we know chronologically what was next? If we go through
Deadly
it now?
Prey.
My memory of that is weak.
I would say this was... Oh, is it my favourite of the weekend? I mean, so bad, and yet better than most comedies. Like I had more laughs out of this than I've watched, and then a comedy film I've watched in a long time.
Do you remember? It's a bodybuilder who stars in it.
Yeah,
I know that.
and he's in his
And
pants
what's the plot?
with no
he's
shoes
basically
on for the whole.
Yeah, and he's chucked into like a just field, and a bunch of people are basically trying to kill him, but he becomes the deadly prey, right?
Yeah,
It's
essentially the
effectively like surviving the game, or that, you know, anything like that Jean-Claude Van Damme film where he's just had to go, but
yeah, rogue military unit kidnap people at random and get their soldiers to kill them, so they know what it's like to really kill people and so on. But then he is an ex-soldier himself and one of the best at what he does, which is run around in pants with no shoes on. And and so he then kills them all. And he veers remarkably between being extremely competent and utterly incompetent. I remember like probably 6 occasions where somebody just sneaks up behind him and he just doesn't even see him coming or hear them coming or anything. And then on other occasions he's killing dozens of people in imaginative and...
Yeah, because people will sneak up behind him and it'll either be an ally of his who says, oh, I could have got you, or whatever, or it'll be like an enemy who seems to go right up to him with their gun and like, don't just shoot him from like 10 yards
like,
away or whatever.
Hands up. And you're like, no, just shoot him. Just shoot him.
Yeah,
he's
just
killed
shoot him, like
30 of your colleagues. But then the main bad guy is his old... Was he like a partner or trained him or something? So then occasionally, even though he's sent a whole army to kill him, he'll at the right time he'll say, "But I want him alive." When the plot requires it.
And don't forget that eventually the plot requires that bad guy kidnaps his wife, rapes his wife, and then it's like you're watching this silly 80s film where there's a man in his pants wandering around killing people, not picking up any weaponry or supplies in this jungle.
Or shoes.
Or shoes. Or even hairspray. And then his wife gets raped, and then I thought, I bet she's going to get killed. Because it feels like, oh, she's soiled now. So she's going to have to die. And I thought, it does that. And it was just a really, really, again, it took the turn from the silly to the unpleasant, bouncing off what we chatted about earlier on.
Yeah. That was right at the end as well, wasn't it? It ends on like a real like bum note. Although he did chop that guy's arm off and then beat him to death with his chopped off arm, which was kind of fun.
That was good.
But it was right off the back of a rape murder, which did sour it somewhat.
And one of the time all around, really. One of the soldiers that he befriends is like one of his old sort of mates from before this kicked off and before he became mercenary. And I thought, you're dead, mate. I don't know what I remember about the first half of this film before. Isn't there a bit where he's in like this sort of woodland quarry outside of LA, and then it cuts to him like going home, stacking up on guns and stuff, which he could have just taken off the many, many, many he's killed when he was in his pants with a knife, and then going back, and he still doesn't have shoes on.
Yeah. The shoe thing, I couldn't keep my eyes off it because you know what it's like just running on like grass barefoot. It's just a matter of seconds before you tread on something a bit sharp or whatever. Yeah. And he's running through like low shorn straw fields, through forests where there's twigs and rocks everywhere, barefoot, full tilt. And I just think, just as an actor, like you're gonna do your actor an injury here, and then you can't film with him anymore. Like, just give him some fucking shoes. It's ridiculous.
Is it purely because he'd look a bit silly if he was wearing like army boots
Pants
on his like naked legs and his little pants.
But
it's
looking
not
silly
pants. The
doesn't
denim
seem to be a
cutoffs with the
concern.
pockets hanging out of them. They're so short. It's just, I gotta say, a running sort of source of amusement for me with these sorts of films, like Surviving the Game or Wedlock or Mean Guns. Any of these films, it's like, oh, we're gonna hunt you guys, and you're like, what? You heavily armed men in body armor with weapons and grenades are gonna hunt an unarmed bloke running around in a industrial estate? Oh, that makes you manly. Basically, it's like all wanker hunters, isn't it? When people shoot a lion and you're like, oh, you shot an animal, a king of the jungle, half a mile
While
away
it wasn't looking.
when it wasn't looking, drinking water, and now you're going to pose with it at you, and they're going to get your private plane home. Oh, what a man! What an alpha male! Wankers! And I feel the same about this film because it's just but the shoe thing is a real problem, to be honest. But it was very repetitive because for the first 40 minutes, he was literally dropping out of a tree. Well, not even dropping out of trees. There were some scenes where they're walking into like forest clearings and saying, where is he? He's killed Alan. He could be anywhere. And then they would wander off, and then the camera would pan up like 5 degrees, and he's hanging off a branch where they would have clearly seen him, where they were having the conversation.
Yeah. I remember that specific shot. We just all burst out laughing because he was like lying on a branch, but it's about 3 meters off the ground, and they were all standing right there under it. Didn't see him. There's not even any leaves on the tree. See, it's making me laugh.
Classic.
It's funny.
Yeah. Deadly Prey. We should probably see if any of these films are available anywhere.
A 4K remaster of Deadly Prey.
Oh, it'd be definitely worth it.
It looked like it was shot on VHS. It wasn't a high quality picture.
Deadly Prey 1987.
I was like,
It's available to rent on Prime Video.
There we go.
It's worth $2.49. Boom, there you go. What's next? Lone Wolf for Quaid? Lone Wolf. Okay. From Steve Carter, director of Bulletproof. This is about gun runners on the southern border, I think. And Wolf's daughter is injured, or is she killed?
No, we didn't.
During a shootout.
Didn't kill her, I don't think.
And Wolf is determined to bring them down, and they're led by David Carradine. And it's like a modern Western, kind of, unashamedly inspired by Sergio Leone. From the music to the landscape to the fonts, everything's there. It's got decent production values for the most part. And a kind of a fundamental understanding of film language, so it's kind of nice to watch. His truck in this movie is completely caked in mud the entire time.
It's preposterously dirty.
And it's weird, like they're constantly reapplying the dirt, like just to make a point of it. And his trailer home is described as a piss house, which is amusing. But he still manages to attract like the gangster's moll, played by Bond girl Barbara Carrera. And here's where I'll mention a direct quote from the film. When they first see her, and his mate goes, "How'd you like to bite that in the ass, develop lockjaw, and get dragged to your death?" An actual quote. Brilliant. She is so out of his league, it's not even the same sport, by the way. And she just hangs around his piss house, cleaning up, waiting for him to come home.
And then he gets all like snarky with her for cleaning up his shithole of a house.
For chucking his
and
crappy beers away.
Yeah. What a bitch.
Literally everywhere Wolf goes, he ends up in a fight. So that's something. But I found it had quite an amiable tone to the whole thing. I mean, it's quite brutal at times, but generally it had quite a kind of like, I don't know, it didn't feel mean-spirited, I suppose. Oh, there's a scene where Lone Wolf McQuaid is buried alive in his car, and he pours beer all over his face and then drives out of the ground.
Just say that.
then-
Can you say that? Can you say that again, Rupert? He is buried 12 feet under the ground. He pours beer on his face, and then what does he do? Underground, buried under 6 feet of earth.
Drives out of the ground.
Drives out of the ground, because that's how cars work.
That is. During the final fight, David Carradine wears an oversized V-neck Pringle jumper, and he has to roll up the sleeves to fight effectively. And then it's a decent showdown, although the ultimate fate of Carradine is disappointingly ambiguous. I seem to recall.
Yeah.
It's not really clear what happens to him, to be honest.
He like runs
Sort of
into
is,
a
but-
building, and then you see a building explode, but you're not super sure if it was the same one, and did it kill him?
Yeah, it did leave it a bit open. I don't know whether, because I've already said, yeah, has a fundamental understanding of film language, but actually, if that's not opening it for a sequel, that's sort of a failure of film language there, isn't it? Because you kind of have to see the bad guy definitely dead, right?
Yeah.
That's just kind of a thing. Anyway, I thought this was my favourite film of the weekend, I think. I enjoyed Lone Wolf McQuaid.
It was certainly, was it the
Probably
most competent?
Yeah.
I mean, Black Dog was efficiently made, but yeah, this one
Yeah.
actually had moments of style, I guess.
Yes. Stolen mostly from Sergio Leone, but that's okay.
If you're going to steal from anyone, he's a good one.
Any thoughts on this, Britt, in particular? Was it perhaps the bit where he's rolling around in his garden, shooting at...
What, in denim
Shooting
cut-off shorts
shotgun
and
at
a... Yeah.
fellas?
I'm surprised that this was the favourite film of yours for the weekend, because I know we watched Recoil as well, but I suppose with Lone Wolf McQuaid, it's one I watched with my brother years ago when my grandparents were still alive, and we just watched it and just thoroughly, like you say, his Pringle jumper, the fact that Chuck Norris was in such a total shithole, and he's constantly like smeared with grease, and his truck is so thick with just like shitty mud. And
oh
then,
my God,
The thing is,
the truck.
He's not sexy enough to be hot, like a hot guy under the dirt, if you see what I mean. He just looks a bit grubby.
And also at the start, when you remember the awkward starting sequence where he's in a quarry and he takes down some bandits, and then he goes to like his
After about half an hour.
he goes
And
to
he
his
cocks it up, didn't he? Because a load of them his own cops get killed because he's
Yeah.
just sort of waiting for the right moment. I don't know.
yeah, and then they just get killed. And he like then goes to his friend who kind of looks like a knockoff Sam Elliott, his friend's retirement party. And he sits down stinking and covered in like clay, and everyone's like, oh, fucking yumminger. And he's sitting there and like pretending to snore as his friend's giving. I thought, you just look like a silly like beta male bully. Like everyone hates you, no one's taking you seriously, and you're just kind of irritating everyone. It's completely misjudged. And I thought, oh, this is the introduction of the character then. Someone who's just like all of his friends die and isn't funny and everyone hates him. Right, okay, that's the hero. Let's go. 80s like action movie. So yeah, this is the film that constantly amuses me. Yeah, and the fact that he gets like David Carradine, who's like the whatever he is, drug smuggler, arms smuggler sort of thing. She fancies him, and she's over at his house, doing like living on him, like hand and foot, and he's just treating her really dismissively. But yet, when David Carradine says, "That's my bitch," she's like, "Well, hang on now, she's my bitch," and you think, whose side am I supposed to be on? You're both cunts. I don't know what's happening. One of you's illegal, and one of you's bad at your job. Which one am I rooting for?
It's like it's a struggle, isn't it, for macho man films? Like, you can't have the macho man look like he cares too much about his women folk. He's always got to be kind of indifferent and treat them like shit.
Which
Weirdly.
I guess is why they've got to have her, for some reason, just constantly trying to force her way into his life. So she just kind of wears him down.
Yeah. So, all right.
I can't have
I'll let
him
you clean my flat
pursuing
and
her.
serve me beer.
Yeah.
Which movie
It's
was
a
next,
mismatch.
Rupert?
I can't remember. Does anyone remember
Hard Ticket to Hawaii.
Oh my
And I'm not going to sing
Really?
it. I'm not going to sing it.
Okay,
I
I've got
will.
some notes on this one.
Hard Ticket to Hawaii. Oh my god! All weekend,
Amazing.
that's all I can hear.
Sing that same bit over and over and over again, and that's the
That's all you
theme
need to
tune.
do. This is a low-budget 1987 action movie from Andy Sidaris, famous for his triple B approach, which I think stands for bombs, boobs, and bullets. Pretty sure it does. The plot, well, I had to look on Wikipedia because I literally didn't understand it. So this is from Wikipedia. 2 drug enforcement agents are killed on a private Hawaiian island. Donna and Taryn, who are playmates, 2 operatives of the agency, accidentally intercept a delivery of diamonds intended for the drug lord Seth Romero, who takes exception and tries to get them back. Soon, other agency operatives get involved and a full-scale fight to the finish ensues, complicated here and there by a very dangerous snake, a crap puppet, infected by deadly toxins from cancer-infested rats. It still doesn't make any sense, even after reading it.
Can I interrupt? Can I just say what I remember from this film, right? I was quite
Sure.
drunk when this was on. And what I really remember is, like, I guess, like, playmates or, you know, pinup models, like, having really verbose, but, like, really blank, over-the-shoulder looking at, you know, cue card conversations, saying, I need to go and meet him at the hotel and see what the heck is going on. And then they would always have a transitional scene where they have to get changed. Like, however they threw it in, they're at a tennis club or a squash club or they're swimming. And then the camera would just be on them silently while they just got changed. And you just saw everything. And they're bold as brass. And then they would get changed and they would leave the room. And then it would cut to them driving somewhere and then having another tedious, verbose conversation before someone else who was a hot blonde model got changed. That's all I remember.
It's essentially, it's the film version, it's the actual film version of that Patrick Stewart thing from Extras, where the clothes fall off. Basically
the clothes fell off. Yeah, it's exactly that.
I'd say I've listed 3 good things about this film. There's an inventive credit sequence where the actors' names are printed on packing boxes in a warehouse or on someone's clipboard. That was quite
Before
good.
you carry on, Rupert, does that go on for far longer than it should, or is it something else?
Yes,
Okay,
it
thank you.
does go on far longer than it should.
Yeah, and you think it's going to be like the first couple of names on boxes, and then it's going to be like on
it's a whole lot
on different things, and no, it's
Cast
all
and crew.
boxes, all boxes.
Second thing, there's an actual Hard Ticket to Hawaii pop song over the plane tourist sequence, so that's good. We love that song. And there's a scene where they destroy a note inside a sandwich by setting fire to the sandwich rather than just the note.
I'm eating, but I'm going to cut in here because this is the first time I've eaten since
You're eating
midday.
a sandwich.
I'm eating fried
Set fire
chicken that Faye made, but I'm cutting in here because what was happening was I was really stoned at this point, and I was sat at a table and I was just eating like a Chinese, and I was head down, zoned out, and this was the highlight of the weekend for me. And I thought, oh, do I need to go to bed, or am I going to be okay in a minute? I'll have another beer and I'll be fine. And I was eating my food and I was a bit wired. And then I just heard Rupert say, did they set fire to a sandwich then? And someone else would have said, yes. And then Rupert said, why did they set fire to the sandwich? And another voice in the other room said, oh, because they had a secret note in the sandwich that they needed to burn. And then Rupert said, well, why didn't they just read the note and then set fire to the note? And then the other voice said, well, they took the note out of the sandwich, they read it, they put it back into the sandwich, and then they wrapped it in paper, and then they set fire to the sandwich, hoping the note would burn. And I was thinking, and then I looked down at my Chinese and I thought, how stoned am I? Because I don't know what's happening and I can hear people talking. and it was one of my favorite exchanges because I watched it back afterwards, and that's literally what they do. They basically like stuff a note back into a subway, fire to the subway in the hope the note with incriminating evidence will burn eventually.
Brilliant.
It'd probably smell nicer a burnt like sandwich than just a piece of paper. Maybe there was more notes in there, like there was messages on the bread, and they had to burn the lot.
They didn't have time to take all the notes out.
Yeah.
So this film is way too long. It's like an hour and 50 minutes. And most of that, as you say, I think you alluded to the fact that there's just pointless shot. They could just have a shot of a woman getting into a car, but they got to show her changing beforehand, don't they? And there's like scenes where, for example, the girls go to a sumo wrestling center for some reason.
To use the
phone. They go to a sumo wrestling center.
For some reason.
So they go to the sumo wrestling center. There's a vaguely racist exchange, and then they use the telephone, and that's it. And then you got these random cutaways of like, we get 2 minutes of a female bodybuilder, which has nothing to do with anything before or after that. And it's like, it just goes on. And then you've got a finale where a large man fails to physically overcome a tiny woman who repeatedly stabs him, and then she lets a giant snake kill him. And then there's another finale. None of it is funny or charming, and it really lacks energy. And I think it's like it falls into that trap of being deliberately aimless and wacky, except without any actual jokes, which is quite a deadly combination, really. Almost as deadly as that sock snake they use in the movie.
And the snake doesn't have any bearing on the plot at all, does it?
Other than to take out the bad guy at the end.
Yeah. But I was going to say, we are overlooking that scene where the guy on the skateboard with an inflatable doll under his arm. I'm trying to remember how it plays out because, oh my God, what the fuck? It's like two guys are in a truck and they're heading to the bad guy's place and they've got a rocket launcher in the boot of the truck. And then an assassin comes towards them who's doing a handstand on a skateboard and riding down a hill, and he goes past them, joins his buddy, who then gives him a gun, and then he skateboards back towards them or something. How does he even catch him up? Yeah. Anyway, he's got a gun that he's hiding with the inflatable doll. So then they shoot him with the rocket launcher, and then whilst he's in midair, they then shoot the doll out of the air with the rocket launcher as well.
Yeah.
It was an unusual scene.
It does not... yeah, it doesn't move anything forward. That's what I mean. It's like so waywardly wacky. It's like... But also... And like, individually, these moments are kind of amusing, but after about like an hour and a half of them, and it's still nowhere near the end, you're like, it's getting a bit tiring now.
Yeah. Do you think they were stoned when they came up with some of these things?
No, apparently there are a bunch of these Andy Starris movies, Triple B movies. I don't know. Apparently this seems to be the most like cult following type one, the one that's kind of best regarded, which doesn't really bode well, does it?
I don't feel a burning need to see the other ones in his Triple B series.
No, this is a genre of movies that just feels like it needs to be left in the past. Like it's not. There's a few like this. The I take you to Hawaii. It was funny, and the fact that if you go to Wikipedia, it looks like Timothy fucking Dalton on the cover, who's not in it, is great. But you are just watching like women getting changed, and then basically a TV movie around it. It
had a whiff of like things like Police Academy, but if you took away all the competence, very base level, gentle.
I remember when the women got changed.
Comedy.
It was either like really like sort of boring music or no music, so you just felt a bit. It just felt a bit. What's the word?
Grotty.
Yeah, grotty. A bit sort of like you're voyeuristic, where you're just like. The music doesn't tell you how you're supposed to be. It's just like, oh, here's a woman getting changed, and you're like, okay, that doesn't really fit into like how.
Yeah, there was no. It was not. They were just. It was just like, here's a nude scene, and then move on. It wasn't like it was written into the story or anything. in a kind of silly way. They just get their tits out,
There's a bit.
put some other clothes on, and then walk away.
Isn't there a bit like when they get back and they've got some bit of evidence? You go, what do you think this means? She says, I don't know. Let's go in the hot tub and talk about it. And they go in the hot tub and they're
Yeah.
both topless and they're holding up this thing. Go, so what do you think it is? I don't know. And it's like there's nothing to say. That's the scene. Great.
It's just a crap genre that doesn't, unless you're like, if we were to say like
14.
16-year-olds or 14 like doing this podcast, it would be, oh my god, remember, but when you're in your 40s and your dick doesn't work properly, like you guys, it doesn't. You just think, well, I'm just watching, like, this is nothing. This is giving me nothing now. So yeah,
This is providing.
The
I guess
last
we've
thing-
all been numbed by decades of readily available porn that this doesn't
This probably isn't
do
going
it
to
for
do
you
it
in
for
the same
Yeah.
way
the youngsters of
as it
today.
would have.
What was next then?
The
Do we
next one was
remember?
fucking Recoil.
Yeah, this is one I missed. But it was loud. I know that.
Was loud. This is the
The action
most
scenes seem to go on forever.
the most relentless action scenes I've seen in quite some time. Like, you think, Fast and Furious has action scenes that go on too long. They go on so long that you start to think, have I seen this shot already? And also there's like
The answer is yes.
So to summarize the plot, if possible, there's a shootout at a bank where the guys who robbed the bank are basically wearing bulletproof suits. And then that turns into a car chase, and they go into like a warehouse, and they drive a car chase in a warehouse that is the longest warehouse ever made on Earth. And then when they finally get to the end of the warehouse, then they do a U-E and race back through the warehouse again. This is the plot we're talking about here. After that, what happens? So they kill one guy. These armed robbers, have shot dozens of cops. But then when the cops shoot one of them back and they pull his mask off and he's a teenager, suddenly all the cops are like now, in the bad books, and the press are out to get them. And it turns out this teenager is the son of a gangster who has a whole family of gangstery sons. And they then start killing the 5 cops who are responsible for rightfully shooting one of their family. And Gary Daniels is the leader of the cops. And after his chums get killed off, then he goes on a sort of solo mission to kill off all the gangster family. And more chase scenes ensue. Yeah, that's the plot.
That's pretty. How does this end? I can't remember how it ends.
It has a really good car chase, another car chase on a bridge. I remember that. And then at the end of it, like, he crashes into a fire truck or something, and the whole thing explodes, and you see him like flying through the air, and you can really, really clearly see the wire that he's hanging off as he's sort of flying through the air, the stuntman. It was directed by a stunt director, wasn't it, or something, and you can tell.
Okay.
But how does it end? That is a good question.
Is that the secret, that bridge sequence? Is that the sequence where like they're hanging off the top of the vehicle?
Yes.
It's a pretty cool stunt.
Yeah.
That goes on a while as well, doesn't it? Bloody hell.
Really
you really
good
get their
stunts.
money's worth when it comes to the stunts. It's like, we got to linger on this. We've got to keep cutting back. And where another film would normally just like be like, okay, we kind of established what's happening here, and we've seen a few shots. It just keeps going. It just keeps going.
Yeah.
On this infinitely long bridge.
And it's in like the streets of LA and stuff, which is nice.
Yeah.
Just sort of action you don't get really these days. Unless
it is PM entertainment though, isn't it?
Yes.
So.
But how does it end? The gangster guy, he must kill the main gangster. I cannot remember. There's a bit where he goes to his house and he's shooting some of his sons.
Okay.
I might have had a few drinks.
But it's Gary Daniels, right? Have we even mentioned Gary Daniels?
Yeah. So yeah, Gary Daniels doing.
Yeah.
Is he trying to do an American accent? I'm not sure.
Step into my office, Lazlo, because I've been watching Gary Daniels films since Cold Harvest in 1999, and he is English, and he makes films based in
Yet somehow
America,
Australian.
and yet somehow sounds Australian, and it just doesn't stop. It absolutely doesn't stop. And every film, you think, what are you trying to do? Like, this isn't Neighbours or Home and Away, and with this, he's the one sort of surviving cop that is obviously fighting back against his squad. And I remember, like you said, the whole thing where they chase him down, and I remember watching it and saying, they're going to come back up this, because I can see there's like they're in this like bizarrely long warehouse. They're going to come back up because you can see there's some bits and barrels they haven't knocked yet, and. Like Rupert said, with the PM Entertainment, it was fun because it's all outside. It's all done. There. But this is it. This is 1998. This is where that ended. After that, it was all warehouses in Romania.
Yeah, and not even a car chase in a warehouse.
No,
I just had a thought. This. I bet this is the case with the warehouse car chase. So they film it all. And then they get to the end and they do a UE. And then all they need to do is use the same footage of them driving in and just flip it on screen. So it looks like they're driving the other way. And they could just recycle all of the footage. You've got a double-length action scene.
That seems a little... Come on, that's a bit cynical, Lazlo. Let's wind it in a little bit, shall we? Because that seems silly.
It's the only way you can get the illusion of the infinite warehouse, though, isn't it?
Oh my God, we've just found the episode title, ladies and gentlemen.
The illusion of the infinite warehouse.
It was a triangle of rivalry, but now it's changed.
Good.
So classic then. It did look pretty good. I do like Gary.
Yeah, it's good. One Tough Bastard. We definitely didn't watch this because of the name.
I've got notes on this. What's the other title? Did we work out?
One Man's Justice.
One Man's Justice.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what it said on screen, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. This features Bruce Payne with flamboyant L'Oreal hair as an FBI agent and also a naughty boy. He's very corrupt. Brian Bosworth plays the tough bastard, who's an army sergeant whose family is murdered by Bruce's boys. And he's put in a coma during the incident. When he wakes up, he briefly tries to get justice through legal means, but of course it goes nowhere because Brucey Boy himself is corrupt. So he just has to take down Bruce and his boys. Bruce, I think at some point, points him in the direction of someone called Dexter Kane, who I believe is the MC Hammer character.
Yeah.
A local gangster, but that's a distraction from the real baddie. Anyway, so Brian Bosworth, he's recalling details about the shooting and following up leads. Again, it's a little bit plot heavy, definitely very macho posturing heavy. And for some reason, the main henchman of the bad guys is completely okay with murdering a woman and a little girl. But later on, he's really shaken up when gangsters shoot like a grown man for some reason. It's a bit odd. Oh yeah, Brian Bosworth teams up with a streetwise 10-year-old kid, try and extract the information he needs.
He was probably the best actor in the film.
He is actually the best actor. The kid's mum is presented as a decent person, but I mean, really, she's evidently negligent because the boy spends all his time hanging around with drug dealers. So Brian himself, he is tough, sure, but he's more conflicted and contemplative, really. It's not really a rip-roaring action thriller, is it?
No, it kind of aims at slightly like traumatized military guy kind of drama.
Rambo type thing. After about an hour, it just becomes a bit weary.
Isn't there a scene where he's trying to like get back at the people who murdered his family, and he goes into a pool hall and a woman gets attacked, and he sort of stops her from getting attacked, and then she just helps him out, but she's a cocktail waitress, and she lives in a penthouse apartment with a full pool table in there, and he even says, "You can afford this, like as a cocktail waitress," and she just goes, "Yeah," and nothing else is made of it. It's clearly like a producer's mate's house, and it's like, why even bother trying to explain it? And she just follows him around and really throws herself into it. And yeah, he's going around looking for places that, like, oh, do you know what this tattoo is? Do you know what this means? And he just gets into these like building, exploding fight scenes just from saying, "Oh, have you ever seen this tattoo before?" And they're like, "Fuck you, man!" And they'll just stop fighting him. Okay.
I've got a final note here which says, Final showdown in an apartment. Bruce and Brian both run upstairs, and each ends up on the roof of a separate building.
This reminds me of like one of our early episodes, which is no one goes down a ladder and ends up on a roof. I think that was a Don the Dragon Wilson film, but that
Cybertracker?
Yeah, bloody hell, good memory. MC Hammer's in this as well, and
Yes.
he by the way, can I say in this film, because I was fading in and out of consciousness with this film, he gets over his family's death quickly. Like, he looks moody, but then the moment he meets up with his burner, he's just having a laugh. And I thought, please don't have a sex scene. Please don't push it that far where it's like, I'm over it now. And Bruce Payne is playing this role as if he's a vampire, as if it's like a vampiric. It's so vampiric the way he plays it. It's
maybe a vampire in real life. Is he ever?
I know, right? He doesn't. Yeah, he just looks like Ted Levine, but with eternal life. There's no kind of sense of him having like kind of like two personas, is there? Because basically he's just really evil when he's doing all his like vicious gangster shit, but then he's and like really flamboyant and bonkers. But then when he's like in the FBI office or wherever it is, his day job, he's just the same. Like he's just really, really flamboyant and over the top. It's not like he's switching between modes or anything.
Yeah,
pistol whip a guy that he's just released like outside FBI HQ and stuff. You think some of your colleagues might notice that?
It's astonishing. Like I remember,
just getting the job
go in there, and then the woman behind the counter in the precinct will be like, "Oh, hey, there's a 302 in room 158," and he's like, "Of course, yes, they need me there, don't they?" Yeah, and she doesn't say, "Are you a fucking vampire?" It's just so blatant. It's so wonderful. But he's just, and there's a bit where someone, like a kid, bursts in on a drug deal, and he's like, "Yeah, man, give me the shit, give me the shit." And he's like, "Yes, of course." Ooh, and you think, you're not a real person, are you? You're something else. And it makes me wonder if he was recast in after Julia in the Warlock things. We're just having a look, because I'm sure he was in one of the Warlock films, because he had that kind of ridiculous. Might be Necronomicon I'm thinking of. Oh no,
did he replace Julian Sands?
He didn't replace Julian Sands. He was in Howling Six: The Freaks. That's where I know from. He was the same 1991, and this was when One Tough Bastard was 1995. So yeah, this is what they clearly saw. They saw him in Howling Six: The Freaks, where he plays, I think it's called someone Harker, who runs he's a sort of vampiric leader of it's a freak show, but it's effectively a traveling carnival, and then it's sort of like vampires versus werewolves in the worst way, and he's the same thing. It's like, roll up, yes, and you're like, yeah, okay, you're a vampire, aren't you? So, what was after One Tough Bastard?
I don't know. I didn't watch any. The Steel Frontier, was that one of them?
That was one you chose, Rupert.
And I didn't watch. With Brian James in it.
Yeah. Lazlo, can you remember this one?
We lost Lazlo.
Have we lost him?
Was he too overwhelmed by Steel Frontier?
Well, We'll just have to carry on, won't we? Because this one was basically, this stars Joe Lara and Brian James. And Brian James is fine in this, right? It's Brian James. Joe Lara is the one. I don't know if you remember, I watched a couple of films about a year or two ago, and it starred, what's his name? That Zagarino, Frank Zagarino. And he made 2 films set in the same like missile silo. Joe Lara just looks like Jared Leto. So in this, you've got it's him, and he's just these Death Riders, and it's this sort of post miserable future movie where he's always getting the shit kicked out of him and getting everything sorted out, and it's just him. You watch a film and you realize you're getting a bit of a caning here, and you're not actually a hero. You're just getting constantly beaten up. You're not doing anything, if you like. And it's like that. It's just Joe Lara getting the shit kicked out of him until eventually, then suddenly he's a hero. And that's very much what it is. And it's a very boring version of that film. And if you look at, if the listeners want to look at Steel Frontier, 1998, I believe, 1995, sorry. The cover on Wikipedia it just looks like an early 2000s DVD cover. It's clearly a re-release.
Yeah.
And there's nothing really to say about it. He is just wandering around, getting beaten up, and then at the end he gets his way and rides off into the sunset. And I don't know if they think it's some sort of, Seven Samurai thing. But it's just not. It's just really, really boring. And I think you realize at the start of the film that he's supposed to be a bounty hunter or a mercenary. And at the end, they reveal like he's just a bounty hunter or mercenary. And you're like, well, I knew that. I guess that from like the person he is and how he's acting. So I just assumed that, to be honest. So
that poster is highly misleading, isn't it? It's like they're ignoring the fact that this is a Mad Max kind of ripoff, and just it looks like generic action gun guy.
Yeah, it basically looks like it's like Luke Goss. You would believe that that's a Luke Goss, like 2010 movie, not a 1995 Joe Lara movie. Joe Lara he did have a unique screen presence. It was basically like Jared Leto, except I prefer Joe Lara's films.
Both Joe Lara and Brian James are dead.
Really? Oh no! When did Joe Lara die?
He can't have been old.
That's yeah. Oh, is it a flight?
Yeah, he died in a plane crash.
Oh wow!
58. I think was he piloting the plane anyway, and and actually, Brian James died younger. I think
he had like cancer or something, didn't he? It was
he had a heart attack in the end.
Oh.
Yeah. He had suffered a heart attack in California. He appeared in 8 feature films released posthumously. Bloody hell, he was
all pro.
He had a few in there. He had a few in the back pocket, didn't he? Okay.
So that leaves us.
I was just going to say at the end of this, I remember waking up intermittently throughout this film, and I woke up just for the end where. Am I remembering this right? Where there's a woman and she's got a child, and the child, for some reason, climbs into the back of a bus, which the bad guy then steals, and they have a Mad Maxy type chase with the bus. And then when they manage, he blows up Joe Lara's truck. So then Joe Lara just gets out, even though the truck exploded. He's fine. He gets in her truck, and then they blow up the bus. And she rams into it, so it splits in half and explodes, knowing full well that her son is in that bus. And you think, oh, wow, she's just murdered her own son there. That's nuts. No, the son just climbs out. He's fine as well. Not a problem.
Yeah. It was a precision dissection of a bus.
Yeah. That's all I can remember.
It wasn't the best, was it?
honorary mention to Krull, which we tried to watch one of the nights. I think we started it at about 1 a.m. and did not finish.
I was never going to win well.
But
let's not have any words against
no,
Kroll.
I need to watch it properly, because my lingering memory of it was that it was just a lot of people walking into different rooms and talking to more people, and then walking into another room and talking to some more people. Did I get it? Is that it in a nutshell?
That is pretty. I think that sums up the entire plot. Yeah.
Okay. No need to rewatch.
It probably isn't really suitable for an evening, having watched Recoil, One Tough Bastard, and Deadly Prey. But yeah, I might have to watch it again now just to. I know we've covered it on this show before, but I don't care.
I'm not going to edit this out, but I'm just going to say it. Lazlo, would you like to cover another movie while I quickly have a pee?
Sure.
Thank you. I'll be back in time for the Arkansas.
Good luck. So I will scroll back many months in time to when I watched
into the mists of time.
God, Dead of Winter. It's not even a very exciting one to go back to, but there we are. This is a thriller starring Emma Thompson that I watched on Paramount Plus. Emma Thompson plays a capable senior citizen in snowy Minnesota who was looking for a frozen lake that she visited with her late husband when they were young. And in trying to find it, she stops at a cabin where she meets a highly suspicious man and sees some blood on the snow and realizes something fishy is going on. It turns out she's interrupted a kidnapping. And so without a phone signal to call for help, she takes it upon herself to try and save the young female victim. And
the fact that these films have to have a scene establishing that they can't get phone signal.
Yeah.
It's just like
this is full of those excuses, so then her car has to be immobilized at some point and so on and so forth. This is full of this stuff. It's not a bad film, but it's elevated considerably by Emma Thompson, because even the script can't work out whether she's supposed to be a smart or stupid character, or she's sort of like she plays like sort of slightly doddering lady, but then is very efficient at other moments. So it doesn't really know what it's doing. There's a bit where she lays like an ingenious trap for someone, but then leaves a glove on the floor that lets them know she's been there, and then she writes a message on a window in the frost for the victim to see, but doesn't wipe it off. So then the bad guys go downstairs and just immediately see that it says, "I'll get help" written on the window or whatever. So it's got its problems. It's also a bit too long. Like there's a whole 5-minute long sequence of her stitching up a wound. And you're like, we've seen this scene 100 times, just because it's an older lady now instead of a muscly guy doing it. It's still, we've seen it all before. There's also numerous flashbacks to her and her husband's story, where they're played by younger actors, which it really overplays, and then it telegraphs things from that are going to come back up in the present day. So it's all quite predictable and drawn out. But Emma Thompson is great. And there is one flashback where her terminally ill husband dies, and she just kind of she's talking to him and then sort of realizes that he's passed away, and then she just kind of goes quiet and the camera just holds on her and she just sort of looks at him, and it's really sort of sad and effective. It was kind of just a good acting and nice bit of directing, and the scenery is very striking. It looks really, really unpleasantly cold throughout the whole thing. It doesn't feel like it's shot in a studio or anything.
She is good at the acting.
Yes, she is.
I just looked up Brian Kirk because I thought I recognise that name. I think I just recognised he directed some Game of Thrones. That was it.
Is he a Game of Thrones?
He did direct 21 Bridges. Yeah, he's one of the Game of Thrones directors. He directed 21 Bridges as well, which
Right.
I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was the one with Chadwick
above
Boseman.
average.
Oh,
film,
it was his last film, wasn't it? Which I remember actually listening back to our old episodes of a couple of years ago and listening back to my review of 21 Bridges, and it was, even though there was something about Chadwick Boseman's death that like it felt like it rippled out beyond what a normal. There was something about it that was like remarkably sad.
Yeah, but I think it's partly the manner of it, the dignity with which he kind of kept his illness a secret. I don't know whether he completely kept it a secret or what, but there was no kind of like, I don't know. He was very dignified in the way that he dealt with it. And then he just quietly just slipped away.
Yeah.
Will be missed. Okay, so is it worth watching Dead of Winter? What channel is it on?
It was on Paramount.
This actually probably is on a streaming service.
Yes, it's on Paramount Plus. I wouldn't say it's really worth going out of your way for. If you've got Paramount Plus, it's one of the better Paramount original films on there.
Okay,
but it's nothing too special. If you're an Emma Thompson fan, then, and it's a nice change of pace for her, then go for it.
Yeah, she's often a kind of slightly kooky, sort of comedic role. Rupert, when you said she's good at the acting, are there any roles that come to mind?
I wouldn't say there's anything specifically that comes to mind. She's the only good thing in Love Actually, of course.
I knew you were going to say
that was the most recent one.
That film was so bizarre. What a bizarre film that is.
It was baffling. Yeah, so there is something very specific that comes to mind, which is that film.
Do you think that there will be like,
which is so beyond anything else?
If we skip forward a generation, right? Do you think that this will be one of those things that, like, say in a generation of like 20, 25 years, people watch Love Actually and think this was so well loved and adored, like, back in the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and kind of like a what is it, Gen Z, whatever, looks back on Friends now and be like, this is all awful shit. And like not understand why it's
Yeah. There's definitely films that like that opinions change over time on them. I'm now struggling, of course, to think of a single example.
Before you say anything, Lazlo, do you reckon that could be like we're coming to episode 120, maybe episode 125 or whatever, could be films where opinions have changed and you think, oh dear.
Or the other way, where they were like sort of completely overlooked or criticized and then found their place. Yeah, it would be interesting.
There's definitely a place for that, because it does happen. That's definitely food for thought. And again, if you want to email us, it's the kinokingdom@protonmail.com. Next time there'll be a lot more. It'll be shuffled around a lot more, but we have to get to the Arkansas now, which was Ryan Gosling to Chuck Norris.
Yes,
yes, it was.
Would you two? Do you know what? We found a bit of a gap between I think the last episode was on the 1st of April, so we're 3 weeks in now, 22nd of April. I've got a fair few entries for this one. I think I've got about 6 or 7.
Oh, nice.
Which is nice. Do you two want to go first?
Did we receive any from the US or Vietnam?
I don't know why they're so high, but every single result we've had I can read out, so I assume they're not Vietnamese.
I did this like 5 minutes before coming onto the podcast, so I'm not even sure mine's legal.
We'll be the judge of that, Rupert.
Yeah.
I'll give it a go. Who was it actually? It was Gosling to Norris, right? It'd be good to establish that. Ryan Gosling is in The Big Short with Christian Bale, who's in Terminator Salvation with Arnie, kind of, who's in Expendables 2 with Chuck Norris.
So
it's-
3
it's-
steps.
3 steps, nice.
It is. Whether it's legal or not depends on whether, like, Arnie, I think, is only in Terminator Salvation in CGI form.
Yeah, he'll be
So
in
he
it.
is,
His likeness is
Yeah.
yeah.
he's likely, and apparently the reason he didn't was because he was doing something else, being the
Something better.
governor.
Eating butter, perhaps?
Dyeing
Eating
his
knobs
beard.
of butter.
Um,
Okay, so 3 steps. I'm sure there are better ones than that.
yeah, I've got a 3-step as well, and it's very boring. So Ryan Gosling was in Blade Runner 2049 with Harrison Ford, who was in Expendables 3 with Stallone and other people who were in Expendables 2 with Chuck Norris. Doubled down on the cheating Expendables options there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's 2 3-steppers from us as a team. So we're going to go now to the listeners. We love you all. And again, if you want to message us about anything, even if it's just a hula abuse at Lazlo, it's kinokingdom@protonmail.com. Not My Cousin John says, the best I have is so far. Ryan Gosling is in Barbie with Will Ferrell, who's in Zoolander with Ben Stiller, who's in Dodgeball with Chuck Norris. So that's a nice 3-step.
That's a good one.
We talked about there being a comedy film that he turned up in, and I could not think of it. And there it is. Okay.
Jimmy Automatic says this is a 4-stepper. Ryan Gosling is in La La Land with Emma Stone, who is in Movie 43 with Uma Thurman, who is in Kill Bill with David Carradine, who is in Lone Wolf McQuaid with Chuck Norris, which is absolutely beautiful.
That's quite a journey, that one.
Ed Wellband says Ryan Gosling was in Blade Runner with Harrison Ford, who was in Expendables 3 with Arnie, who was in Expendables 2 with Chuck Norris. I feel like is that the right way around? And
Yeah.
that is the right way around it. And of course, Utah Smith does his usual irritation where why is my phone smeared with blood? Something's happened. Something's happened during this podcast. I don't know what the hell's going on. Okay, so this is this is the recent. I'm gonna have to get this blood off my phone now. What the hell's going on? How much have I drunk? I know I'm a bit warmed up, but why is there blood all over my phone? Oh my god, this could be the final.
Are we going to find out that you murdered your wife and child during this
podcast? Okay, I'm assuming it's this message. Okay, so this is off. This is Utah Smith. This is his entry.
Ryan Gosling is in Blade Runner 20, whatever it is, 49, with Harrison Ford, who is in Expendables 3 with all the other cast of the Expendables, who are all in Expendables 2 with Chuck Norris.
Oh, okay. That's not, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So there's that, and it's just another 3-step. But Max Hilarity says Chuck Norris is in Lone Wolf McQuaid, whereas a partner for most of the film, and thus is not alone, with Barbara Carrera. Lazlo mentioned she's Never Say Never Again, which stars Sean Connery, as does Indy Jones in The Last Crusade, and end of the trilogy of films. In that film is Harrison Ford, who's in Blade Runner 2 with with Ryan Gosling. That's a 4-stepper. And he also said Gosling stars in First Man with Kyle Chandler, who's in Game Night with Jason Bateman, who's in Dodgeball with Chuck Norris. And the final entry is Transvaal, who says Chuck Norris is in Dodgeball with Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller is in Anchorman with Steve Carell. Steve Carell is in Crazy Stupid Love with Ryan Gosling. So no one can beat that 3-stepper. So it's like a multiple win. Weirdly, I thought with Ryan Gosling being in so many films and with Chuck Norris obviously being in The Expendables, which is almost like a Marvel-y kind of opener, but no one can beat 3 steps.
Yeah,
I quite enjoyed that as we were doing this.
Impressed by our mediocrity.
What's next for Arkansas then?
Can we
What
see
about-
Patrick?
It's Brian
I was going to say
James?
Patrick Swayze as well. Okay.
Patrick Swayze has left. A lot of the people we talk about have sadly left us. But I'm gonna Brian James is a tougher one than Patrick Swayze, so I'll say Patrick Swayze.
What about Patrick Swayze to Emma Thompson?
Oh, nice.
Now we're talking. Okay.
This is
Patrick
why we got
Swayze.
Lazlo on the podcast, to come up with the hard hitters like that. I love that. And are we all okay to call this the illusion of the infinite warehouse?
Fine.
I love that aliens will land and look at that and think, well, that's clearly a reference to Recall 1998 with Gary Daniels. Or they call it Gary Daniels. And I love you both, but are we okay now to move into the final part of the podcast? Where we'll let everyone gather around. Oh, we're going to do our films of the week first, actually.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's got to be the Mario movie, really, for me.
Yeah, I would say Mario movie, and for our if you ever worked in a video store, please watch Video Heaven, just so you'll just shake your head and say, "What are they talking about? These highly paid people, where it's all nepotism. What are they talking about again?" But I would say Super Mario Bros. Galaxy movie. But out of the ones we watched from Rupert, I did like Black Dog.
You like Black Dog?
Yeah.
And Lazlo liked Recoil, and I like Lone Wolf McQuaid. There's something for everybody.
Yeah. Deadly Prey
Really?
was solid gold, though. I mean, yeah, there's nothing. So, I just want everyone to, if you can both, Rupert and Lazlo, are you in a position where you can sit back and just close your eyes, and as we drift out of this podcast, are you okay to just drink this in, if that's okay?
Sure. I mean, I do need a wee, so I might piss myself, but other than that,
Well,
it should be good.
let's just talk about, and I mean, this could go on for a little while. Let's talk about a list of woods. You've got hop pine, monkey puzzle tree, piranha pinay, cedar, celery top pine, cypress, Arizona cypress, bald cypress, alerce, henoki cypress, Lawson cypress, Mediterranean cypress, Douglas fir, coastal Douglas fir, Rocky Mountain Douglas fir, European yew, balsam fir, silver fir, noble fir, Pacific silver fir, hemlock, eastern hemlock, mountain hemlock, western hemlock, Huon pine, kauri, Queensland kauri, Japanese nutmeg yew, larch, European larch, Japanese larch, tamarack, western larch, pine, European black pine, jack pine, lodgepole pine, Monterey pine,
Chris Pine.
Chris pine, ponderosa pine, red pine, Scots pine, Sean Connery pine, white pine, eastern white pine, western white pine, sugar pine, southern yellow pine, loblolly pine, longleaf pine, pitch pine, shortleaf pine,
All right, Pine.
eastern